Videozinho falando sobre a quarta temporada. Vamos lá, gente.
Got Gwen, who you met a couple dev updates ago, is a producer on New World. Dave V, who everyone knows, the associate game director. Got Rosie, the Wex art lead, world art lead. Chad, who's the AI lead. Patrick, who leads the seasons and progression teams. Vince, who's the UX lead. And Dan down there, who is the social and mounts lead. Lots of leads here today. So before we get too deep into the season 4 update, I want to talk a little about the roadmap. So at the beginning of the year, we released a roadmap that talked about everything we were going to do this year, and we've been pretty diligent about it. But in the effort of full transparency, we've ended up moving some things out of season 4, and I want to talk through those and just own some of the things we missed on and talk about why. So the first one is the season trial with mutators. We decided to move this to season 5 so we could do a little more focus on the expedition coming out this season. So we are still shipping a 10-person mutator, but it's going to be next release, and it probably won't have mutators. We're leaning heavily against that. Another one that's not happening is the seasonal trinket. So with this one, when we, artifacts weren't on the original roadmap and plan. And
Galera, eles falaram que a mutação do desafio da temporada mutado, que ia ter na quarta temporada, não vai ter. Eles vão deixar pra quinta temporada, que vai fazer uma mutação de 10 pessoas, tá, mano? Eles retiraram.
Once we released artifacts, it seemed to fill the void of the trinket. And we thought before we start putting more things in the mix, let's watch what happens with this, get player feedback, and figure out if trinkets is still the right thing to do or we want to go a different direction. This next one is the MSQ update. So we were planning to finish the MSQ this release in December. However, we're not.
Pera, o que é MSQ, mano? Alguém devem aí?
Not really happy with the way that the MSQ update went in the last release, and we wanted to put a little extra time.
Quarta.
Just to make sure we give you a quality experience. So that's going to move into the next one. We had already talked about really not being into heart runes. I think we did enough of those, and I think that anymore we get a little bit convoluted. Next one, we're going to go into this really deep later, but at a top level, cross-world.
Eles também não vão lançar a runa nova também, por causa dos artefatos, que vai vir muito artefato novo na quarta temporada. E eles vão dar eles vão ver o que eles vão fazer com as quests principais, tá, gente? Porque já tá num nível legal, eles vão dar uma adiada ainda.
Expeditions and arenas is moving. Now, the reason it's moving level cross expeditions and arenas is moving. Now, the reason it's moving is we wanted to surprise everyone with an improved group finder. And we did, it's underway, but it's going to take a little longer than we wanted, so it's not going to make season 4. However, we will deep dive on that in a little bit.
Putz, isso daqui é problemático, tá? O cross-helm de dungeon e arena não vai entrar também na quarta temporada. Porque eles estão fazendo um novo sistema de entrar em dungeon. De frying.
And then finally, the seasonal territory control. Again, we talked about doing this, but the influence races have done such a good job of engaging the players. We want to get more feedback, and we'd rather respond to feedback and improve that than try to throw another system into the mix. So there's good reasons for it, and this is just, when you release a roadmap, 12 months out, you don't always know how things are going to evolve over time and what's going to happen in the live environment. So things change, and we just wanted to, be open and honest and get in front of the changes. So with that, I'd like to shift the focus to season 4 and talk about
Agora eles vão falar um pouco da quarta temporada, tá? Porque houve uma mudança muito grande no mapa da quarta temporada. Muitas coisas que ia ter e não vai ter, tá, gente? Então agora ele vai falar da quarta temporada. A quarta temporada vai se chamar Eternal Frost, tá, mano?
Frost. Because there's some pretty cool stuff coming this month. And the very first thing is it comes with a new storyline.
E antes disso, deixa eu falar pra vocês, a quarta temporada vai vir um mês antes do previsto, tá, mano? Tanto que a temporada 3 vai demorar 2 meses e 10 dias só, tá, gente?
And someone's going to tell you about that who's sitting behind me.
Yeah, so Season 4 storyline. The Silver Crows are back, so very excited to have Grace O'Malley, Xander, and the crew back to take you on a new adventure. With this storyline, we have a old client, Sky the Spear Daughter. She returns and warns that the Varangians are back up to no good. They never seem to be up to any good, so we're fighting them again. With her coming and bringing that news, you need to seek out new allies, so that brings in Daichi Saito, the new member of the Silver Crows, who you'll have to fight him to gain his respect in order for him to join the Crows. So it's one of several soul trials that come with this season narrative, which is super exciting. We're really expanding our quantity of soul trials we're doing with the season narrative. So, Chad, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you were saying, I think we've got a total of, 4 solo trial boss fights. So we've got the Daichi encounter, another fight with the Ice Dragon, as well
Dragão
as
de
kind of an
gelo?
ultimate Ice Guardian. That one in particular I really like. Has some great mechanics that we haven't really seen yet. Interacting with some throwable objects to kind of break this interaction that the boss is doing with some rooms in the environment. I think that one's really fun. And then an ultimate fight with Mordred, which is really cool. He's got some really interesting, not seen before, new abilities.
And I think the quest experience is once again up-leveled. Like, it's just, there's so many fun quests. There's one where you actually play on a chessboard. Like, there's a mission in that. Like, we've just found new interactions in the quest that keeps it sort of interesting and really keeps the narrative alive.
Yeah, personally, I like that. We've done a lot for the group, the PvE group players. We've done a lot for the PvP players recently, and now we're doing more for the solo players. And I want to make sure the message is we care about all of the groups of players. And I think at a high level, I love the solo trials. They're pretty cool.
Vai ter provas
We also have a new
individuais.
expedition coming out, the Glacial Tarn for level 65 players.
É uma nova dungeon já. Essa nova dungeon, ela vai ser level 65, ao contrário da dungeon nova que tem agora, que é level 63. Essa vai ser 65, tá?
What makes that
Vai ser
cool?
uma dungeon de gelo.
Well, the Glacial Tarn, in contrast to the Empyrean Forge, is going to be all icy and cold. So we have some real extremes in temperature. And it's really interesting second half to the Empyrean Forge. So we see those two, sort of the two sides of the hot and the cold.
Yeah, and just to talk a little bit about what players are going to be encountering in there. We've got some really neat environmental interactions. There's icy stalactites or icicles dropping from the ceiling on the player. Some really interesting kind of empowering mechanics where players have to defeat it, gathering flame. Some new enemies with icy ancient guardians, ice Varangians, and some new bosses. Gwen, you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, the new Ice Torso boss, does he have a player-facing name?
Sir Loth.
Sir Loth, that's right. Yeah, so we've got the Ice Commander, Sir Loth, in Glacial Tarn, and I think the most exciting thing about that fight is just how much there is going on, and there's going to be a few different ways that you can play it. There's other AI that are going to be buffing the boss in the center. There are weak points that you can target if you're focused on ranged play. And there's also a lot of movement around the arena. So harkening back to Empyrean Forge, you have to really pay attention to what's around you and make sure you're not getting caught in the floor turning into lava. And this time you actually have a lot more control over the arena itself because the boss can break the bridges, but you can also build them back up. So making sure you're not caught on a platform where you need to be. I still haven't beat it in playtest yet, so I'm gonna need to work on it a little bit harder.
Maybe you should stop playing with Dave and get other people to...
Maybe more with like Pride and Darren. They were a little bit better. But then I play healer, so maybe I should be keeping Dave alive better.
I like that.
The best healer in the world couldn't do that. Sorry. We got a couple new artifacts. You want to talk about those?
Ó, os novos artefatos, mano.
Yeah, so new artifacts. So for those of you who are done with your chase from the expansion artifacts, we're introducing 8 new ones. Pretty diverse cast of weapons and armor. So those weapons that did not get artifacts with the expansion, the life staff, the bow, things like that, they're finally going to get their time in the sun, and they should be pretty fun for players to chase. So 2 of my favorites, Vengeance, the life staff.
Opa! Ah, não mostrou! Ó, dano de natureza, 1% de natureza. Máximo 20 step. Ó o Blow também de artefato.
Pretty unique weapon here. It takes more of an off.
Yeah! Pera. Não, não. Tô loucão. Tá.
Offensive approach for the life staff and increases the damage you deal based on how many times you're healing people. So I'm sure there's some pretty fun interactions there for players to find. There's also Gladiator, the round shield.
Ó o shield leve. Yeah! O shield leve tem 2 perks. Nossa! O shield leve. Melee hit, insere ataque. 10% da wave pro cooldown.
What this does is it acts as a sort of thorns, where when you take melee damage, you then inflict a bleed on the player. So some
Vai causar sangramento, então. Caralho, mano. Sangramento vai estar
interesting
top.
interactions there. Dave,
Pessoal que gosta de buildzinha de espada e escudo aí,
any other favorites from you?
Yeah, I got
vai combar bastante a espada. É a espada que tem sangramento, com esse escudo que tem mais sangramento ainda.
2 favorites also. One, I know all the bow players felt left out. Your bow is coming, Bolt Caster.
Opa! Não. Ah, não, mano. Não, velho. Não, pra quê? Pra quê? Tomara que os outros perks sejam ruins, velho. Pelo amor de Deus, pra quê? Pra quê, mano? Ah, não, mano. Mano, tomara que os outros perks estejam ruins, por favor, velho. Senão vai ficar muito forte, velho. Não, mano. Pode nerfar, velho. Pode nerfar. Nossa senhora. Nossa.
It's really cool. It does, as you can guess, lightning damage. But the other nice thing is if you hit someone with full health, you get a stun. So that's going to be very interesting to see. If you hit someone with full health, you get a stun. So that's going to be thing is it does.
Pera aí, outra coisa boa, se você acertar alguém
If you hit someone with full health, you get a stun.
que tá com saúde plena, cheia, né? Você fica atordoado. Ou ele fica atordoado, não entendi.
So that's going to be very interesting to see the power of bows plus a stun. Another one I love is Quick Draw Gloves.
Você dá stun. Caralho, então o arco vai dar stun. Ah, não, mano. Mano, pra quê? Pra quê?
What I like about this is it really changes the gameplay, right? It's not just numbers. Every time you swap weapons with these gloves on, you get a little bit of immunity. So it's neat to sort of like plan out your weapon swaps and sort of have a different vector on gameplay. So.
Toda vez que você trocar de arma, você fica imune com essa luva. Não, mano. Não, 12 segundos de CD, entendi.
With these gloves on, you get a little bit of immunity. So it's neat to sort of like plan out your weapon swaps and sort of have a different vector on gameplay. So some pretty interesting ones.
I'm really excited about the DPS life staff. I haven't even come close to finishing my artifacts so far, so those are about the DPS life staff. I haven't even come close to finishing my artifacts so far, so those are just going to go on hold for a little bit so I can do my life staff.
Galera, a Life Staff vai dar dano agora, tá, mano? A Life Staff de artefato, pelo que nós tá vendo aqui. Vai ser da
I
hora.
mentioned this in the earlier part, but I think artifacts just changes the game, and they're so fun as chase items at the end, like really awesome. We're also bringing back some of our favorite seasonal events. We have the Winter Conversions Festival and the Legacy of Crassus, and I don't know about you, Patrick, but I am looking forward to seeing those Gleamites come sailing in.
I'm excited too, and that's a great segue because one of the bigger changes with the convergence this year is we're really increasing the frequency of those Gleamite meteors. They're such a cool thing in Turnum, and you only get to see it for a month out of the year. So we really wanted to make sure that players are seeing a lot of those at night, and it's really lighting up the sky. Outside of that, the standard rewards suite, so new armors to chase, new emotes. And one of the, I think, coolest things about the convergence this year is we're changing the way crafting works with these holiday events. So what we're doing is...
Nossa! 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 Nossa, mano! Azote indutor. Caralho, mané! Ó as skins, eu não tinha olhado. São skin nova.
Introducing a new resource, the pristine Gleamite chunk.
Novo recurso. O que vai fazer esse novo recurso? Pera.
These holiday events. So what we're doing is introducing a new resource, the pristine.
Outro recurso aqui para craft, gente. Outro recurso para craft.
Gleamite chunk from the shop. You can buy this, and that'll let you craft a guaranteed 700
Mais gesto.
item with some fixed perks, and should be. You can buy this, and that'll let you craft a guaranteed 700 item with some fixed perks, and should be a really awesome way for players to hop into events like Winter Convergence and get some great gear out of it. Outside of that, Legacy.
Isso daqui, gente, vai ser um item que você vai ter perk fixo, mas você vai poder escolher outros também pra você criar, tá, gente? E além dos nossos dois que nós já conhecemos, tá?
What we're doing is introducing a new resource, the pristine Gleamite chunk from the shop. You can buy this, and that'll let you craft a guaranteed 700 item with some fixed perks, and should be a really awesome way for players to hop into events like Winter Convergence and get some great gear out of it. Outside of that, Legacy of Crassus you touched on. So there's going to be a new pickaxe. Might be best in slot, might not. But what it does have is a unique skin, so players can go chase that. And there's also 2 new statues that come from the event from each of the corrupted Cyclopses. Those will be fun to decorate your house with.
Okay. Next, Vince, you want to tell us about some of the inventory changes, quality of life improvements?
Sure. Yeah, we've been gathering feedback for a while now on inventory and some changes, and I'm glad to announce that really big changes are coming in. So one of them is that basically right now the view of your inventory items is all 2 columns. So you have like 2 columns of, and it gets really long if you have a lot of rewards or a lot of things in a specific category. You can now change that to 1 column, so it can go wider. You can also reorganize and either change the order of all of your categories, as well as turn on or turn off some categories too. So if you really don't like gems, you can hide them all, and then you can change all of this sort of at will. If you like the 2-column layout, you can also move things from 1 column to the other. If you like all the crafting stuff on the right and all your gear on the left or the other way, you can make all those changes as well. And another cool feature that people have been asking about that we're really excited too is within each category, you can do batch crafting based on rarity. So you just check the box of the rarity of stuff you want to, or salvage, you want to salvage, and then you basically just salvage all. So if you're like Scott Lane, you want to salvage all your commons and legendaries, you can go do that. If you're like Dave V and you're anti-blue and you just want to nuke all of that rarity, you can go for it.
Gone.
So we think you just want to nuke all of that rarity, you can go for it.
Vai poder destruir todos os itens agora de uma vez, gente. Você vai poder escolher, destruir todos os itens e tal.
Gone.
So we think we're really excited about this one, and we think we've addressed a lot of the feedback, but please keep it coming, and we'll continue to keep making improvements to inventory.
It's good timing. Weren't you just talking about salvaging legendaries and how the UI creates a little bit of excess clicking?
Yeah, that Control C gets a little frustrated. So I'm very, very happy for this change, and thank you, Vince. I think it's a huge quality of life improvement, and it's something that we're going to continue to pay attention to, not just inventory, but quality of life. So earlier on, I mentioned that we were moving cross-world expeditions and arenas out because we wanted to focus on improved group finder. Dan, why don't you tell us exactly what that's going to encompass?
Yeah, the wait, it's almost over. We've almost got it. We are going to do cross-world expeditions with a one-click group finder. So you can go as a solo, you can click the button. As a pre-made group, you can click the button. You will find a group to play expeditions with cross-world. We're doing, we're supporting all the vanilla expeditions. We're also going to support mutated expeditions as well.
Nice. And this has roll queue, Dan, so you can be assured you always have a tank and healer in your group?
You go into the system, you pick a role. It's gonna, it's gonna balance things out. You're gonna have a bonus for those in-demand roles, and yeah.
Any other bonuses, like just to give you incentives to do it every day or something like that?
Funny you should ask. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Galera, as DG vão demorar um pouquinho mais, cross-helm, tá? Eles vão fazer um negócio pra você entrar com um clique só, eu acho que vai ser estilo World of Warcraft. E faz de conta, tá faltando tanque. Se você entrar de tanque na DG, você vai ganhar um bônus a mais na DG, tá, mano? Ah, tá faltando healer. Se tá faltando healer, então quer dizer que você pugar de healer, você vai ganhar um bônus a mais.
Yes, indeed. There is a 3x daily bonus for clicking the big random button that will send you to, wherever you're needed the most to fill a group right now.
And isn't there even more, Dan? What if,
Sure
I
is.
think...
There's no end to this stuff, Dave.
With pugs versus pre-made groups, sometimes you don't have that coordination, so it's a little more difficult with pickup groups. Are there any sort of compensation or incentives to help that group along?
Yes, absolutely. This is not an original thing by any means, but we're adding a 15% buff when you end up in a random group to damage and healing.
It's going to be big. Yeah, I'm excited for this. I think, one of the controversial topics was like, should we do these one-click group finders for mutations? Because mutations are a little bit more, makes sense obviously for story mode and be easier, but like for M3s, we're going to try doing it. I think it's the right way to do it. But I think we talked about not having them impact the leaderboard,
yeah,
right? Like
no leaderboard placement for.
So that can stay pristine. Yeah, I think it's going to be super fun. Like just the ability to press one button, never have to link gear again, never have to beg for groups or anything, and you'll just be in a group instantly. It's just
For me, it's as much about the wait. Not having to try to wait for a group to form. Now when you're combining that with cross world, it's gonna feel much more on demand, and that's exciting. And healers, you're gonna get paid extra.
I appreciate that buff too, because as a healer, having good group synergy with the people that I always play with is really beneficial, but now I don't have to worry.
So thanks again, everybody. And just as a recap today, we talked about some roadmap changes. We went into deep dive on all of the Season 4 features, including a new storyline, the new expedition, artifacts, our upcoming seasonal events, the awesome quality of life updates we've done, as well as giving you a little insight into where we're going with the improved group finder. So thank you again, everybody, for doing that. We'd also like to elicit questions for the Q&A. And we've seen the feedback that people feel like we're not answering all of their awesome questions or giving enough detail. So one thing we're going to do is be
Eu acho que, as outras coisas, beleza, que faltou, eu só achei o cross-helm um pouquinho chato de ter demorado, tá ligado? Mas outras coisas nada demais, porque veio os artefatos, tal, a runa não precisava vir. Mas o termo do cross-helm demorou mais um pouquinho, que eu acho que é o mais necessário pro New World. Mas tá bom, mano.